Call this meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission to order. Secretary, would you please do roll call vote?
Commissioner Ward. Here. Commissioner Chikarsky.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Kacharsky, I'm here. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Barraza.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Singh.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Miller. Absent. Vice Chair Dolan.
Here.
Chair McCoy.
Here. Thank you. Just want to let my commissioners know that our mics are going to be on the whole meeting because of the tech issues that we're having. So it's a hot mic moment, so just be careful because it could be caught out there. We will now begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please stand? Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will start with the approval of the agenda. Secretary, are there any changes or proposed changes to the agenda?
No, there are not.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dolan. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. This item is approved. We will now move on to approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from August 21st, 2023?
No.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. This item is approved. Before we move on to subcommittee reports, we all know that we lost one of our commissioners, Dr. Francine Apuda, and I just want to read something in her memory right now. Dr. Francina Puda, a beloved figure in Fresno and beyond, passed away at the age of 70. She was known for her exceptional work in promoting diversity, equality, and social justice. Dr. Apuda served as the former director of the Cross-Cultural and Gender Center at Fresno State and was dedicated social justice advocate and educational coordinator. Beyond her titles, her impact extended to fostering cultural pride, educating youth, and facilitating difficult conversations about diversity. She welcomed children of all backgrounds and taught them to embrace their cultural heritage. Dr. Apuda's ability to educate without offense and her regal leadership earned her immense respect in the community. Her legacy of promoting and engaging in challenging conversations will continue to inspire those who knew her. She will be greatly missed on the commission. She was an asset to this commission, asking the very difficult questions and getting those answers, and always keeping our residents and our public first when we have public comments, wanting to make sure that their questions were answered. Me personally, she was a mentor, a friend, and she's going to be greatly missed. So before we go on to the subcommittees, I want to turn it over to my commissioners if they would like to say some kind words, starting with my vice chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think most of you know I have not been in Fresno that long, but I have been working in the public sector for a long time. I've been somebody who has had the opportunity to meet and learn from a lot of people, and I just want to say that in the time that I knew Dr. Apuda, I have never met anybody that impressed me more or that I learned more from. We were just talking about it tonight. Her intelligence was matched only by her graciousness and her ability to be both assertive and kind was amazing. So I'm going to miss her a lot.
Commissioner Cummings?
Yes, I will be forever grateful to Dr. Aputa's leadership style in bringing together the community in peace and harmony. And as we were speaking earlier together, I really admired, she was such a teacher to those around her, and the way that she would impart productive information so that we could communicate better within our community. One of her first responses would usually be in discussion, she would express gratitude. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for that information. Thank you, and use your name. These are all practices that are truly important for us to be able to respect, to show respect for each other and to understand each other. And I will always remember her and am thankful for the opportunity to spend time with her on the commission. Thank you.
I'm going to butcher your name up, but I'm going to try it anyway, because I know you just by first name. Commissioner Kurcharski?
Yeah, Kaczarski. Yeah, good job. I was a student of hers in a urban leadership program, and I significantly remembered the lessons that I learned in there, and I was honored I got to sit next to her here for a little while. And it's really sad that she's no longer with us, and I'm thankful I could say that I got to learn from her for a little while.
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you. Commissioner Miller and I both got to work very closely with Commissioner Apuda, Dr. Apuda, on the art subcommittee, and I think maybe we both felt like she was there to make us better people. She was very careful with her words. She always brought a beautiful, broad, and inclusive perspective. I think we learned a lot working with her, and I think that her language really shines through in both the revised cultural arts plan and also aspects of the grant guidelines. And I think we all really benefited from our work with her, and she'll be greatly missed.
Commissioner Singh?
Dr. Apuda was one of my first interactions with her. I just remember her like outside. We were just talking in our group, and she came up to me, and she just, the exact words are kind of slipping right now, but I just know like what she told me was essentially to be proud of who I am and to not like back down, especially when it comes to the fights that we fight. And her grace, her ferocity, her kindness, she leaves that all with us, and I don't think her legacy will be forgotten at all.
I did not have the honor to know Dr. Oputa prior to serving on this commission, but as we worked together, it didn't take me very long to realize how caring and sensitive she was about those folks that are frequently left out. And I actually was starting to get to know her better, and actually, this is not very timely, you know, but life is what it is, but I enjoy her presence, and she was always in tune with what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. She would be greatly missed. Commissioner Singh, one of the first things she told you and I was to both stand on what we say, stand on our beliefs, never apologize for the way we feel and for the statements that we make in regards to this commission. So those words are sticking with me, and it helps me move forward with serving this commission because she will be greatly missed. Thank you. Subcommittee reports. Does the Cultural Arts Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to this commission?
We have an item that will be coming up later in this meeting, but before we get to the discussion of that item, I did want to share that I've been speaking with our city attorney kind of around timing for how the guidelines might move forward. And they're being presented tonight. If there are corrections, additions, technical items that we can revise, actionable things that we can change today, then they'll go back to her office for review and then start the process of moving forward towards City Council. I know that there is also a request from some community members to take a pause and open a 2-week written response period for people to submit their written proposed revisions and feedback to the guidelines that were released. And if that occurs, then the committee will have to meet, go through it, then it will begin another up to 10-day legal review process, and we're looking at this commission recommending them for adoption at the very end of October, October 30th, and they would likely go in front of City Council on November 16th. So I just wanted to kind of let people know that time frame as we're hearing this item later in the meeting.
Thank you. Does the Parks Master Plan Subcommittee have an update it would like to provide to this commission?
I have been asking about when we're going to have a meeting, and I did get a reply from staff, and I understand there's some staffing limitations, but I appreciate that it was listed on the agenda. It's an item that will happen eventually, but the master plan is something very important because it gives us the vision of all the projects, when they will happen, and will also trigger an update of what has been accomplished and what will be accomplished in the future. So it's very important, and I know that staff realizes that, but I just have to say that it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to member reports and comments. As a reminder, this is a time for commission members to report anything they feel important for the public or commission to know, but it's not a time for a discussion. Commissioner Barraza, do you have any reports or comments?
Yes, Madam Chair. I wanted to let you know that the other day I was happy to see photos of police rangers. You know, rangers are the positions that we've been waiting for to address public safety in the parks. But I was disappointed that the uniform was like police cadets. Park rangers, in my opinion, implies green And, you know, if you think of the state and federal rangers, you always see green associated with it. And in fact, not only because of that, but public safety in the parks, it has to be a very high priority. And I will be sending a formal request to you, Madam Chair, to schedule a discussion of public safety in the parks, as we are supposed to address that as part of Measure P. And at the same time, have a conversation about the park rangers. For branding of Measure P, can we do a better job of having them dressed in a way that people will remember Measure P and say, wow, this is beautiful? And I also would like to know what is happening in the parks from a public safety standpoint. Additionally, what's also very important, as we build new parks, parks have to incorporate public safety measures. I don't know, cameras, or I don't know how you design the park can carry a lot of weight in terms of the public safety implications. And I would like to, and I'll be requesting that we have present whoever the appropriate person will be from the police department also, because they are the experts in public safety. But I hope that this commission can present the public park side of the issue, that it's not just public safety, but also green space, and that people feel comfortable with the ladies and gentlemen that play that role, that is going to make the park safer for our families.
Thank you. I totally agree. I was a little disappointed when I seen the pictures of the park rangers as well. They look like police. About 5 or 6 years ago, we worked on surveying South Fresno on what they would like to see and what public safety meant to them. And they didn't want to see our park rangers dressed as police. They wanted to feel safe in the park, but when you have that type of presence, it pushes residents away. So I was very disappointed to see them dressed like police officers as well. I can see a khaki pants and a nice collared shirt. But they look just like police officers, so that was very disappointing. So I'm looking for your request, because I was going to also do a request as well. Thank you. Commissioner Singh?
Well, I'm glad this topic was brought up. So at Jaswant Color Park on September 16, September 16, there was a memorial, annual memorial for to celebrate Jaswant Kalra, because this is the month that he was disappeared by the state of India, or government of India, and in the 90s, and so they annually do this event. And so this was the first time I ever got to interact with the park ranger. We had celebrated Gabriel and a few of the other park attendees at the event, just kind of commemorating the work that they do. And I noticed the park ranger also kind of there, right? And I noticed a stark difference. I mean, no disrespect to this park ranger, doing the job that he was assigned, doing his duties, probably the way he was trained. But, just to give you all a demonstration, if I stand like this and I just have sunglasses on, I'm not going to be approachable, right? You're not approachable like that. If you have sunglasses on, you're standing with kind of in like a pseudo police uniform, sure. I think that public safety goes beyond just having the presence of a figure there. Mm-hmm. I think that our park rangers, and this is to no fault of necessarily anyone, maybe we just need to have further discussions and maybe even figure out sort of like a way to implement this, but I think public safety also means community engagement. Like, I wish that the park ranger had come up to, I noticed this, but the park ranger was just standing there. There was no interaction with any of the community members, talking to anyone. I don't care for someone just on the side and corner, just like standing there. I don't feel safe that way. I want to have interaction. I want that person to come and get to know my name, get to know my community. That's public safety, right? When they're in the know as well, not just for the purpose of like, hey, I'm here as your kind of protector, but as in like I'm here to engage with you, to be a part of the community that resides here. Yeah, those are my 2 cents. But regardless, super successful event, and nothing against that park ranger at all. They are just doing their individual duty, but I think that the larger structures are something that we, as a commission and as maybe city staff and stuff can focus on.
Park rangers were created to protect our parks, but also engage with our residents who enter the parks. Be friendly, be engaging, be welcoming, not just to stand there and have this presence of this authority presence and standing with their hands behind their back. If that's the case, then we could have put police officers back in the park instead of having park rangers. So I do totally understand where you're coming from. Thank you for that comment. Vice Chair Dolan?
No comments at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Cummings?
No comments, thank you.
Commissioner Kucharski?
Kucharski.
Yes.
Yeah, no comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
No comments.
Thank you. We will now move on to City Administration and Park Staff reports and comments. Does anyone from the administration have any reports or comments for the commission?
Chair McCoy, Aaron Aguirre, Parks Director. I have a statement that I wanted to read here regarding Dr. Puda. As you know, she was very dear to the Parks Department, and we learned a lot from Dr. Apuda, just in, the little things, the way we talk the you-alls instead of the you guys and the manpower. Those things will always be kind of ingrained in myself, and I know Aldi as well, and the rest of my team here, so she will be missed. But Dr. Apuda was a tireless champion for inclusivity and one who consistently served as a guiding force. Her dedication extended to her role as a commissioner. She amplified the voices and needs of underserved communities as she played an integral role in helping the Parks Department develop more welcoming spaces and equitable programs. I'm grateful for her dedication and service. Her absence will be felt throughout the city of Fresno. On behalf of the Parks Department, I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to her family, friends, and all those lives she touched and influenced. You will be missed, Dr. Apuda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. I also want to thank everyone. Your sentiments were so eloquently expressed, and I too enjoyed working with Dr. Apuda. I'm going to miss her smile, and she just exemplified grace. I think she just was such a great contributor to our community. And I also want to express condolences to Dr. Apuda's family on behalf of the mayor and the city manager's office. Her contributions to our community will certainly be missed. And then on a side note, I just want to let you know that we really appreciate and value your feedback on the Park Ranger program, and we will continue to work with you as a team through this.
Thank you. We will now move on to unscheduled communication. Would any member of the public like to speak on any issue within the jurisdiction of this commission? You will have up to 3 minutes. Any issue within the jurisdiction of this commission? You will have up to 3 minutes. As a reminder, if you'd like to comment on a scheduled workshop regarding the new citywide dedicated Senior Activity Center Phase 1 Outreach Summary Report, now is the time to make a comment. If you would like to make a comment regarding any of the scheduled hearings, comments will be taken when each item is called. We will now move on to, no, stop. Does anyone have any comments? I'm just reading. Anyone online?
Yes. Lisa Flores.
Good evening, Kimberly and the rest of the commission. First off, thank you for this opportunity. And also too, I would like to share my memories of Dr. Apuda. I remember her. I never got to physically meet her because of COVID, but we had great exchanges via Zoom. And long before COVID and everything, I knew her as Henry's wife, my union brother from Local 1000 SCIU. And I heard about his wife and how intelligent she was and how gracious she was and how she was a force of nature, and that I needed to meet her. And luckily, through COVID and through all the Zooms, I've got to interact with her and see her in action, and will always remember her as a force of nature. She is like the wind. She is on her travels now out there in the world, but she will come back to us at one point in time. and she will be probably a hurricane force of change. So I will always remember her for the force of nature she was, but I will really remember her for the love she had for her family and for Henry. Also, too, one of the other things I want to talk about this evening is the dog park at Roding got moved. I think it got moved. I haven't been out there in 3 weeks, but anyway, we need a name for the dog park. And the name that I wanted to suggest to you for the dog park at Roding is Puppy Love, is the name that I'm floating out there. The Puppy Love Dog Park at Roding, because we really love our dogs and there's lots of puppy love. Or you can name it after Dr. Apuda. Either one would be fine with us. And that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have anyone else?
No, we do not.
Thank you. We will now move on to workshop items. ID number 23-1427, scheduled workshop for the City of Fresno's new citywide dedicated Senior Activity Center Phase 1 Outreach Summary Report. Would someone from the Parks Department please begin the presentation?
All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Summer Rooks, and I am the projects administrator for the City of Fresno Parks Department. I, along with the wonderful capital projects team, fosters all new capital development projects from an idea all the way to construction completion. So tonight, I'm really excited to bring you the most recent project that our team has been working on, and that is the Citywide Senior Activity Center. And so tonight I'm going to be providing you, along with Elizabeth Castillo, Program Manager for our senior programs, we will be bringing you a summary of the outreach that we've done in the last couple months. So before we begin, I'd just like to take a brief moment to thank all those who have contributed to the success of this project, especially our, I won't read the list, but would like to thank especially our consultant, Southwest Strategies, the Parks Outreach Street Team, and of course, all of our trusted stakeholders and community-based organizations that just continue to positively advocate for and move this project forward. So thank you, everyone. All right. So I will talk just briefly, excuse me, let me flip my page here. I'll talk just briefly about the need for this project, why we actually started the project, the timeline thus far, and then the outreach strategy that we actually employed. And then I'll hand over the mic to Elizabeth, who will talk to us about the actual data that we heard, all of the feedback that the community provided. And then we'll talk about next steps and set the stage for where we're going. So in general, Parks' goal related to our seniors is to sustain the mental and physical health of the City of Fresno's aging population. So how do we do that? What's our approach? We ensure ready access to engaging social activities, including fitness classes, dances, speakers, arts and crafts, bingo, all that fun stuff. We do that through our 20 community centers, so all of which are open to people of all ages, and then 9 senior program specific sites. And so those are listed here in the presentation for you. Of course, all of this is wonderful work, but we have heard and we agree that there is additional need. There is approximately 63,000 seniors within the city of Fresno. And a recently published study from the CDC has indicated that negative health outcomes from social isolation, something that is experienced by a lot of our seniors, may actually rival the negative health outcomes of smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity. And so understanding that and understanding the scope of, or the framework here in the city, we understand that there's a need for dedicated, safe senior spaces, new unique facilities that offer unique programming opportunities, and something that is centrally located for our seniors who may have transportation issues or mobility issues. So not only access to the site, but access within the site. And so in order to begin answering these additional needs, the city of Fresno embarked on the acquisition of a new project site for a new dedicated senior activity center. And so in 2022, the city acquired this property here on screen, which is located at Blackstone and Holland near Ashland, which is, you may know this as the old Vaughn's building. And from there, in fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24, we were allocated funding from Measure P and CDBG for the acquisition and design of this project. And so from that, we moved into our first outreach phase, which started in July of 23. And so that outreach strategy was, five-pronged. And before I actually detail each of these prongs out, we also utilized various advertisement strategies to ensure that we tried to get the word out. So we utilized radio, digital ad, print ads, social media, both Facebook and Instagram, and we did direct mailers prior to all of our community meetings. And we also employed the help of ambassadors like yourselves to actually help us promote this project and to advocate the project as trusted stakeholders within the community. And so again, a big shout out to all of those who helped. And so the first prong of our outreach approach was the opening of our Senior Center Outreach Headquarters, and that's located at 4325 North Blackstone. And what that center is actually an office open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 7, and allows anyone from the public to come by and talk to us about their questions, their feedback, and to learn more about the project. And so this is going to remain open through our second phase of outreach. The second approach, or prong to our approach, was the online website, the launching of our online website. That was launched at the same time as our outreach center, July 5th. And you can see just a snapshot of the mobile version here. And what this provided was an opportunity, a landing page, again, for people who were interested in learning about the project, to learn more and to provide feedback via a survey, as well as a really cool idea board, which I'll show here on the next screen. And so here on the right-hand side, is a snapshot of our idea board, and you can see those are live comments that we received. So through all of our outreach efforts, we had a short survey and response card form, and with that, we actually received 519 survey responses, 324 short form comment card responses, and 46 unique comments. And so in total, we had 889 unique responses to our feedback request. And lastly, I'll talk about the last two items, our open houses and pop-up and leveraged events. So when we began this outreach series, we started with 9 scoped meetings. And that was 7 in-person open houses, 1 in each district, as well as 2 virtual hybrid open houses. And the hybrid location was the senior outreach headquarters. As we began holding these meetings in late July, we understood that the response was actually minimal. We heard feedback from this hard-to-reach population that coming to the meetings, regardless of time, day, location, was still a challenge. And so a good approach would be to actually meet those seniors where they already are. And so what we ended up doing was scheduling 9 leverage events and 19 pop-up events at storefronts, senior living residences, senior hot meals, just trying to get in front of as many seniors as we could. And so in summary, you see here 7 in-person open houses, 2 virtual hybrid open houses, 9 leveraged events, and 19 pop-up events for a total of 38 engagement opportunities, which was really awesome and unprecedented for our team. And then to highlight also, that was 5 senior hot meals, 2 senior food drives, 2 library events, 8 senior residences, and pop-up booths at the Fresno Center and Hidden Wealth Foundation is just a few examples. So now you know what we did. I'm going to go ahead and pass along the mic to Elizabeth Castillo, Program Manager for our senior program, who can tell us what we heard.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. My name is Elizabeth Castillo. I'm the Program Manager for our senior programs for the Parks Department. The next part of the presentation, I'll be going over our findings and what we've received from the surveys and the comment cards in regards to the types of programs that our community would want at our senior center, along with the type of site amenities they'd like to have inside of our senior sites. So a summary of results, the demographics. This is going over those that took the survey, starting at the bottom left corner. Those that completed the survey, 89% of them completed them on their own, 6% completed them on behalf of a family member, and 5% completed the survey on behalf of a friend. At the top left corner, what best describes your race or ethnicity? 48% of those that completed the survey were white. 31% of those that completed the survey identified as Hispanic or Latino. 7% identified as African American. 7% preferred not to answer. 6% were Asian, and 4% were American Indian or Alaska Native. 2% that completed the survey listed as other, and 2% as Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Those that completed the survey, 40% of those were between the ages of 70 to 79 years old. 36% were between the ages of 60 to 69 years old. 8% were under 55 years old. 7% were between the ages of 80 and 89 years old. 6% were between the ages of 55 to 59 years old, and 2% preferred not to answer, and we had 1% completing the survey at 90 or older. Of those that completed the survey, which city council districts do you live in? 24% listed their district as unknown. 13% were from District 1, 12% from District 2, 11% from District 4, 11% were from District 5, 10% lived in a county island within the city of Fresno limits, 10% were from District 3, 7% were from District 7, and 6% were from District 6. In comparison to the participants that come into our senior programs, like Summer mentioned, we have 9 senior programs throughout the city of Fresno. Majority of our participants are white, Hispanic, or African American. The ages that normally come to our senior programs are between the ages of 65 to 80 years old. And next, I will go over the programs that the community would like to see at our senior site. I'll also talk about the similarities and differences of what we currently offer for the seniors that attend our senior programs. So some of the top-rated site features that folks would like to see at the senior center, number one would be a gym, whether it be a standalone gym that has equipment, gym equipment, or free weights. A community garden was also highly ranked in the survey, whether it be gardening classes or continuing their love of gardening and then leading into possibly a farmer's market. A swimming pool was also highly rated in the survey for doing water aerobics. Computer lab was also a top-rated site feature where folks can either learn how to use a computer or have computer accessibility. And then next would be a social hall where they can have senior dances, bingo nights, or other special events. Some of our top-rated programming results were to have educational classes, so classes such as arts and crafts, knitting, crocheting, sewing, watercolor, ceramics, and then another one being technology classes, just a huge emphasis in teaching older adults how to use computers, how to use smartphones. Health and nutrition was also a top-rated program that the community would like to see inside of our senior sites, inside of our senior center, that being exercise such as dancing, Zumba, yoga, water aerobics, and nutrition classes, either like cooking classes, cooking for one, or cooking for those that have diabetes, or learning how to cook for those that maybe need a low-sodium diet. Another top rated program would be recreational programs such as field trips, just to have the opportunity for seniors to get out of the house, to go and visit local parks, national parks, having the opportunity to visit small towns and historical sites or museums. As for the timing and day of the week for the senior site to be open, it was preferred to have programming be done primarily in the early morning between 8 and 11, and Monday through Friday would be ideal for most, for the result, that was the results from the survey. The survey did show that our seniors would like to have weekend programming specifically for special events such as live entertainment or dances. So how this compares to what we currently offer for our senior programs, our 9 senior sites primarily do operate during the weekdays, Monday through Friday. We have 2 senior centers that offer programming Monday through Saturday. The link at Blackstone that operates Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we actually have a great results for seniors coming in the afternoon time to the link. And we have one of our other senior sites operates Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to noon. Right now, this past year for senior programming, we've had a big influx in exercise classes. So we host a lot of senior exercise programs, everything from yoga at Romaine Gym to water aerobics, which we're wrapping up this week at Musqueda Center, and we're offering exercise classes at every senior site that we have at least 2 times a week per center, per site. Our preliminary recommendations for the Senior Activity Center in regards to facilities, we would like to have flexible multi-use spaces. So for example, we can have a conference room, but also flip it around to teach art classes or technology courses. Large gathering areas where it would be a large auditorium that we can have either lunch or meal service there, but also flip it around to have senior dances or entertainment. And of course, emphasize safety and accessibility to make sure that when we do build the senior center that we are mindful that we have wide walkways to accommodate walkers, wheelchairs, and also that we have handrails, and also utilizing park rangers for safety and security measures. As for programming, we would be doing programming probably in the early morning from 8 a.m. to 11, and then weekends would be for large-scale events like health fairs, resource fairs, and dances. Traditional programming would be desired. Multilingual and multicultural offerings are are also important, making sure that when we do offer classes, we do have bilingual instructors, that we also have material and collateral that is in different languages, and that we really build off of community partnerships, that we work with transportation agencies, advocacy groups, legal assistance organizations, domestic elder abuse, and multicultural advocacy groups. So such as Fresno Madera Area on Aging, that we partner with them and really give seniors and older adults this center where they can access resources from legal assistance to nutrition assistance to elder abuse assistance as well. And next, I'll pass it over to Summer for the next steps.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Alrighty, so where do we go from here? We've taken all of the information that was a result of this outreach series and have provided it to our designer, Integrated Community Development. And what they're doing now is they're in process of creating that schematic design for our next outreach series. And so we're expecting that first iteration of the draft schematic design here within the next week or so for staff comment. And then we are planning on taking that and launching into our next series starting October 30th. And from there, we will request feedback on the schematic design as well as the proposed programming that has resulted from this first outreach series. And we plan on having 4 community meetings through the first 2 weeks of our outreach effort. And so that's October 30th through November 10th. The comment period for this outreach series will stay open through November 30th to allow people to provide their comment. And all of this information will be available again via the website that we're currently familiar with, so no changes there. We anticipate the design to be complete in April of 2024, and then we'll actually begin construction in fall of 2024 and enjoying the site hopefully by summer of 2026. So thank you all for your time this evening. That concludes this presentation, and we're available for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. It was a great presentation. I would like to open it up with questions on the commission side. Can you go back to the slide that had the results of who took the survey, the demographics?
Yes, one moment. Thank you.
No problem. With the section of what city council district do you live in, a lot of our residents do not know what city council district they live in, so I might want to add a suggestion when you're doing outreach. I'm putting on my community organizing hat. You have a phone, sometimes you have a tablet that you're doing surveys on. Just go to the website on the city council, type in their address, educate them on what city council district they live in. And then they will know, and they will know who to contact if they need to speak to their representative. I think that will be very helpful, and then it'll help with your results on your, when you're presenting to us, because you would not have unknown. That number would be lower, and then which city districts actually took the survey would grow, would increase. So that's just a suggestion. And can we go back to the slide that had the activities that seniors wanted to see?
This one?
So we see that the top ranked site features are gyms. I was in LA about 7 years ago, and I rode by this park, beautiful park, equipped for a very diverse group of people. They had a trail, a walking trail for seniors, but they also had exercise equipment on that trail for seniors. That might be something that we can do here as we're building new parks. Instead of building a gym for seniors, we can incorporate what they want in the new parks that we're building. I think that would be a great feature here, and it'd be something different because when you go to our parks, you don't see the equipment that's put along the trail, the walking trail. And not just seniors can use it, but all people can use it. And it can help keep them in shape and keep them healthy. So that's just another suggestion.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions. Thank you.
And Chair McCoy, would interject real quick. We do have new designs coming, and they have exactly what you just described. So you'll be happy to see those. We'll point them out to you.
I hope so. I can't wait. All right, and then I open up to the rest of my commissioners. Commissioner Singh.
Thank you both for a wonderful presentation. I know how hard outreach can be. Community organizing, it means a lot of engagement and outreach with your community. So my first question to you both is, what were the challenges, and where do you think that that there maybe could have been a little bit of improvement, or maybe in the future when, with phase 2, with that outreach, what are ways that we're gonna improve on this?
Great question. Thank you so much, Commissioner. So I touched on it a little bit, but one of our earliest challenges was attendance at our community events. And so we solicited feedback from those who did attend, and also those who perhaps were part of our senior hot meal program, who did not attend, and tried to figure out why that was. And so we identified that it really was finding areas in which seniors already visit to bring this information and materials to them. And so we will continue that model into this second phase of outreach. We are identifying the top sites that we had attendance to target those for these next community meetings.
Awesome, thank you. I do also want to, so I see in the acknowledgements that there's various organizations that assisted with probably the outreach and community engagement. I see, well, thank you for actually, for involving Hidden Wealth Foundation. They're key in engaging with our seniors in the Punjabi Sikh community. I do also suggest reaching out to organizations such as HIP, Hmong Innovating Politics, A Hopeful Encounter. Those are both Hmong-based orgs in Fresno that very much work deeply with the Hmong community. And also, even the organization I work with, Jakarta Movement, we are more than happy to help with any sort of engagement y'all want. We have a lot of seniors that we talk to day to day. And then going to the slide, if you can pull that up on the summary of results, the same one that Chair McCoy had asked to pull up. Is it possible to bring that up?
Yes, one moment.
Perfect, thank you. So I know that this is to no fault of anyone, but I do want to set the precedent now and for our engagement further. The needs of the Hmong community are so much different than the needs of the Punjabi community. The needs of the Korean community are so much different than the Punjabi or the Hmong community, right? So it's easy to kind of put everything under this umbrella term Asian, but those specific kind of demographics are super important. They're super. I mean, I know that recently. In this last census, there was a push from all these from all of our Asian communities to have these things separated, and I know by law these are kind of the demographics that usually are given, but I think we can go beyond that, just because they're completely different, and so for future outreach, I would ask or have specifics, because 6% is including all of the Asian communities in Fresno, and And to me, that's not enough. And the 7% for the Black community is not enough. The Latino community is not enough. We have significant populations. And plus one to what Chair McCoy said, even if it means that, like, wait, did we ask for addresses when we did the survey?
That was one of the items that was asked, yes.
So why was it not just automatically inputted of which council district they live in?
Not all respondents provided that information, and so we decided to just base it on the council districts.
Okay, yeah, no senior of the Punjabi Sikh community knows what city council district they live in, and that's just, I don't want to say no, but that's because culturally, like, a lot of folks that immigrate here are unaware of the systems and procedures of how to be civically engaged. So it's super important that when we are doing out this outreach, either I'm not going to say mandate the address. I'm sure there's reasons to not mandate it, but just if they put in their address, it should automatically. There's ways to put a survey where it's like it'll automatically say, okay, you're in District 6, District 4, District 3, right? But yeah, that to me, like, that unknown number, 24%, is way too high. Either whoever's helping them do the survey should help them, understand what city council district they live in, or the system of the survey should automatically input it themselves. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like an education point that you'd be able to do when you're asking addresses and be able to equip them with that. I think that would be good to incorporate. Thank you for that. Commissioner Barraza, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'm just kind of curious why you picked that location in Fresno. I'm sure it was difficult to make a selection, but what type of cost-benefit analysis did you make in selecting the site? And two, I would think that it's very expensive for transportation purposes to move people. I would rather have service at the Mosqueda Center or some other location in Southeast Fresno than having to have the elderly travel all the way to wherever this place is located. So there has to be some cost-benefit assessment of how you decide what services you provide in a central location versus the decentralized sites that you have all over the city.
Thank you, Commissioner. The site selection was actually a process that happened, I believe, in 2018, and I'll look to Aaron for any corrections. But there were several sites that were compared against each other for central location, for ease of access, for purchase price, I believe. And I look to Aaron for any additional details on that.
Right, and that was before I was director here, but Summer is absolutely correct. There were 4 or 5 sites that were reviewed, and ultimately the administration back in 2018, 2019 came up with a plan, and unfortunately TJ was a part of that as the director at that time. She can probably speak better to that than I can, but I know those were looked at from those kind of standpoints and that criteria you just mentioned.
You have the floor.
All right, great. I think you said that there were 9 centers already. Is that correct?
9 senior sites, yes.
So this will be the 10th.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Would you be willing to just provide a little information about how the other 9 centers are doing? Are they well attended? Is it like everyone really likes it? They want to see more? Like, I don't really know much about it. I'm not a senior, so.
Yeah, so our 9 senior sites, we have them, they're located all throughout Fresno, mostly one in each district, almost one in each district. They operate 9 a.m. to noon. 9 to 11 is recreation, and then 11 to noon, we offer a hot meal service. So we do offer lunch to those 16 older, a hot meal for free. Out of 6 out of our 9 sites, we offer hot meals. Like I said, we have different activities from bingo to Tai Chi to arts and crafts, and they are well attended. We have some more well attended than others, primarily Ted Wills Community Center, that's a highly attended site, Mosqueda as well, and Senior Citizens Village, which is also located at a senior living community.
Great. When you say well attended, like how many participants do you guys see?
So at Ted Wills, we primarily see between 45 a day seniors. Musqueda in the 30s, Senior Citizens Village in the 40s. And then we have some lower attending sites. I think it could just be maybe not enough outreach to let the community know about those centers, but we have them at Lafayette Park. We have them at Inspiration. Their numbers have increased to about 15 to 20 a day. We have the link at Blackstone. That's right there on Blackstone and McKinley. We have one in Pinedale and one off of Bulldog and 6th Street that just reopened.
Thank you.
So you don't have one in West Fresno?
We have Mariella Brown.
Right.
And how utilizes that?
We have about 6 participants, 6 to 10, yeah.
So from the ones that were attending the West Fresno Resource Center, because they had a senior program as well, so they didn't transfer over. Is transportation a problem? That's why the attendance is so low?
We have some folks participate in West Fresno Family Resource, and then they also come to our senior program. It's a close-knit group of folks that attend Mariella. As for transportation, I'm not sure if there is a bus stop there at that location.
That's right in front. But other than that, some seniors don't use buses, some seniors don't drive. So are we offering any type of transportation to our seniors to get them to these senior centers all throughout Fresno?
So we're looking at opportunities with Fax Handy Ride and partnering to get rides. I will say I was at Pinedale just a couple weeks ago for the senior programming, and there were a couple individuals from Mariella Brown who were out at Pinedale. So and they drive themselves and very active. What we notice a lot of times is they do travel from site to site based on, for instance, that location had a CRA, one of our community rec assistants, Mary Lou, giving aerobics class. So they kind of followed her around, you know. So transportation has been mentioned in the past. Doesn't seem to be a barrier at a lot of the sites, but it could be. That's why we're exploring those other options.
Thank you. So my next question, hopefully it'll be my final question, since we're building this state-of-the-art senior center on Blackstone, correct? What are the city's plans to incorporate to make sure that the same programming that's being offered at the new senior activity center is being offered at our existing ones? That way our residents don't have to worry about transportation. They don't have to worry about how do I get here because they're having this over here, but they don't offer it at the senior center that I recently go to or I go to. So how are we going to make sure that we have the same programming being offered every day of the week or every other day, just the same programming being offered at 9 or all 10 senior centers?
I think that just comes down to making sure that we offer consistent services at all of our centers when it comes to staffing, that we are well staffed for exercise classes, for arts and crafts classes. This new senior center will have, I believe, extended hours compared to what our hours are at the other senior sites. So we do have that 9 to 11 where we can put in as much recreation programming into those 2 hours, and a lot of those sites offer meal service, so we'll have the meal service component at those 6 sites, but just making sure that we have consistent staffing at those centers to offer the same services throughout.
I told Fib I have another question. Do we have the same, for example, aerobics instructor? Is she responsible for all 9 sites, or do we have other aerobic instructors that are hired to be able to
Correct.
to attend?
We have multiple, and we have 2 fitness instructors, and that's actually going to jump up to 4. We're in the process of hiring 2 more CRAs of fitness instructors to offer those classes at multiple sites. Instead of 2 times a week, we're looking for 3 times a week. Tai Chi, we have now, in the past, we didn't have Tai Chi at all of our centers, but now we have Tai Chi hitting every single senior site that we have. So just making sure we're well-staffed in that we can offer those amenities and services through all of the 9 sites.
Thank you. So when you guys come back to us with phase 2, because this is phase 1, would that be included in the update of how many employees that we have for each programming that we offer at these senior centers?
We can share what each center looks like. As Elizabeth did mention, we are in the process of hiring. Those 2 offers are in the works now. So yeah, we can definitely do that with the caveat that more on the way. Interviews are in place, so we can definitely share that information
Yeah, the
with you.
reason why I'm asking is just like having a classroom full of 20 students and you have one teacher. So we don't want to have all these residents attending this and then we don't have enough instructors to be able to deliver on the programs that they're looking to receive at the senior center. So having enough staff to be able to staff all 10, because now we're going to have 10 and we're looking to have more, will be beneficial to the seniors that are attending these centers. So that's the reason why I'm asking. So I would like to know those numbers, please. Thank you. And I don't have any more questions. Do anyone else have questions?
Madam Chair, just a quick question. On transportation, I know the city has a lot of buses, but this would appear to be a more customized type of transportation. Do you work with EOC on providing the movement of senior citizens from the outlying areas to this new facility, or?
I believe that is one of the options that we are exploring along with Handy Ride. Currently, that is not a part of our programming.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for this rich conversation. We will now move on to hearings. ID number 23-1393, actions pertaining to the expanded access to arts and cultural grants guidelines. Number 1, receive a public input on the draft expanded access to arts and culture grant guidelines. 2, review and make recommendations from the Parks, Recreation, and Arts Commission for the City Council's consideration and adoption of the expanded access to arts and culture grant guidelines. Woo. Would someone from the Fresno Arts Council please begin the presentation? That was a mouthful.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Lilia Gonzalez Chavez, Executive Director of the Fresno Arts Council, and it is my pleasure to present to you the 2024-25 grant guidelines for Expanded Arts Access Fund under Measure P. I think many of you have been just kind of in the wings, waiting to see what comes next. You know, we heard about, we need to get to grant guidelines. We need to move this forward. We've been 3 years waiting for this fund to move anywhere. And here we are. We have a first draft of grant guidelines. But in fact, it is a draft. And we understand that it will change because it is a draft. And it will change with, hopefully, input from you today and perhaps input from the public. So I just hope that as you listen to this presentation, you'll listen with that spirit that we know it is a draft. In the development of these guidelines, the Fresno Arts Council provided 2 information gatherings. Sessions were held at CMAC, and we had over 90 participants, stakeholders in the arts, come to those sessions. The sessions were made available with simultaneous translation, and we also offered other languages. The simultaneous translation was in Spanish, and we offered other languages if they were requested. The sessions were most helpful in informing this process. I don't think we could have completed this guideline without that input from the public. We also incorporated standard practices in development of arts guidelines. For those of you who don't know, I previously served as chair of the California Arts Council, our state arts agency, and in that capacity reviewed multiple guidelines and also explored other guidelines from other organizations from across the country. So this is not my first rodeo, as they say. We also tried to create a process that dealt with multiple documents. We had to respond to the initiative. It had very specific rules about how these funds can be used. We had to respond to the cultural plan because it also identified very specific things that needed to go into these guidelines. And then we had to respond to the public. So we really were navigating many different areas. And I would like to, at this point, thank the subcommittee that worked so hard on this, and with Laura Ward and Scott Miller, and of course, our beloved Francine Puta, who I would be remiss in saying that I personally feel that loss because she was a dear friend, and I just think she was essential to ensuring that these guidelines do what they are supposed to do. We tried to create guidelines that were not overwhelming. Some people make their living writing grants proposals. Most of the people in our community who will be applying for these funds don't do that. So we tried to make the guidelines easy to understand, simple, accessible, which is in the name of the fund. So yes, we could have said a lot of other things, but were all those other things germane to people successfully accessing these resources? We don't know, because we don't know all those other things. But what we do know is that our community has never had this opportunity. And this is going to take a lot of support for our community. So we anticipate to provide a lot of technical assistance as we move forward with this process. Moving forward is not just these guidelines. This is one step. One thing, another unknown variable, is how many people will apply for these funds. We don't know that. We know we have a finite amount of money, and that money has to be distributed as equitably as possible. So as we consider these guidelines, you need to know that we will be returning to you to discuss allocations. This is not a conversation about how much money everyone is going to get. It's a conversation that outlines how much money people might get. But until we know the universe of applicants, there's no way for us to give you precise amounts for any given group. But we will be returning to you for that allocations discussion. So the guidelines, I hope you all have a copy and had an opportunity to look at it. Like any guidelines, we have the general information about the Arts Council, about the process we went through, Measure P. But then we get into the specific information about who's eligible for the fund. And that eligibility information is included for both operational grants and special project grants. And I'm having trouble with my left hand here. Okay, here we go. We looked at eligibility for funding, who's eligible, who's not eligible. I always hate it when I go through an application and I don't find out that I'm not eligible until I get to the very end. So you see that up front, we let people know if they're eligible or not. Then we identified the types of grants. And there are two types of grants discussed in these guidelines: the general operating support and project-specific grants. Something that I want to draw your attention to is the matrix for the distribution of funding under operations. Some folks may think that this is upside down, that larger budget organizations have greater needs and therefore should receive more money. When we look at it in dollars and cents, they in fact will receive more money, but the percentage distribution is designed to be equitable, not equal, but equitable, to allow for new and emerging organizations to receive funding to help them grow and develop. That will come from not only the funding, but the technical assistance that they will receive. Project-specific grants will have a range of from $2,000 to $200,000. Again, we don't know how many applications we will receive at this time, but that's a range of what might be possible given what we know about the development of programs. Even with $200,000 as a maximum for a project, it will probably not fully fund a project, depending on what that is. There are those projects that will fall in that range, but there are also those that may not. We also identified a funding restriction for organizations that make more than $3 million. And that's for general operating support, that they will have to choose to either apply for project grants or operating support. They can't apply for both. Now, narrative questions are typically not in grant guidelines. The questions come in the application. But because we were requested to include them, we have. And the questions will be used for both operational grants and project grants. They're broad enough, and they've been used in other communities to be able to ascertain the information that we need. You will notice that in them, they actually ask people to tell us how their work aligns with the cultural plan, because that's one of those things that we want people to be responding to. Most of the other information contained in the guidelines are general issues of legal requirements and standard information included in many grant guidelines such as these. I don't want to waste your time by going over this point by point, but because I believe you have perhaps questions, I will entertain those now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first question I have, what is the budget? How much money in this first round? I've been hearing that the arts component of funding has been accumulating because we haven't done anything. Therefore, That's the question, and whoever knows the answer, I'd like to know that. I also like to know how much would go to the general operating support component, and how much, when you identify the budget, and how much would go for project-specific grants. I'm talking about the total funds available.
Yeah.
I realize that what you're proposing here is $250,000 for general operating support, the maximum, and the maximum for the project-specific could go up to $200,000. Anyway, but that's my first question, because that kind of would relate to other questions I have.
Sure. What you approved in the budget that was presented, and Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, is $9.5 million. That's what is in the budget currently. We've been playing with the number of $5 million for this first round of grants. We don't know how many people will apply. It may require that in order for us to be able to fulfill both project grants and operational grants, that we will use the whole 9.5. Or it may be that we will be able to push that money forward for other projects that come up that are not introduced in this first process. And for that, we also will come back to you. And those kinds of things are, in the cultural plan, it discussed very boldly a need for some kind of community calendar. If we're going to do that, we would have to put out a special RFP just for that. And then we would allocate a particular amount of money to do that project. And that project could mean hiring staff, it could mean setting up a unique platform, being able to access the information from all the various community organizations is quite an undertaking. And to have just one hub where that's done, that may require a special RFP. So it's projects like that that we want to be able to fund after this first process. I know that it would be so easy to just put it all out at once. But because we don't know what's coming, we want to have some reserve for those other activities. Other questions?
Madam Chair, may I ask the questions, or you want me to do one at a time and then everybody can ask? Is that okay? Thank you very much. There are some areas of things that I don't like, and the parts I don't like is where the requirements seem to be biased towards arts organizations. Remember, this process is supposed to expand, bring new people into art. So it's wonderful that we have great people that do art and are very good at what they do, but we want to encourage other individuals, other community members that typically don't participate. The other part that I always have expressed a lot of interest and concern has to do with something that in the guidelines, it says that it's a very high priority, and that's to incorporate all colors, all residents in this process. On page 7, there's a section where you talk about the fiscal sponsor, and you say that the fiscal sponsor has to demonstrate at least 2 years of arts and cultural programming. And I don't like that. It should be fiscal knowledge or, capable to handle the fiscal affairs, but not necessarily that you have to be in the arts, because that gives a favorable advantage to the arts organizations. And we're not really, we all should benefit from this. And so I just make that observation. The one thing that I'd like to see that I requested when the cultural arts master plan was being prepared, I'd like to have an overview, even if it's a summary of the art categories, cultural categories. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the Philharmonica? Are we talking about, what are we talking about when we talk about art? And they say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all those things. So I would like to have better information to encourage folks that are not very sophisticated in the world of art or culture. What is that? So that would be one observation. The other component that I would like to see some information about, the ethnic composition of our community. We've seen those numbers, I don't know if we put them in the cultural arts master plan. I'd like to see that here because we're telling folks that that's very important, but we don't tell them what would be the objectives or goals or on that makeup of the community. I would like to see whether you put it as an exhibit or an appendix or whatever. That would be very beneficial. And then the availability of money, and you have on page 10, you have a note that says, organizations with budgets over $3 million must choose between general operating support or project-specific grants annually. I kind of think that you should apply, not you, but I mean the organizations that are interested, for either the annual operating income or support or the project side. Because there's an implication that if you're asking for operating money is that you want to build up the capacity of your organization. Do that first, and once you accomplish that, then you can shift to a specific project. Because you could also have very wealthy organizations that will be applying for both, and they will suck up all the money. And that's not hopefully what we get as the outcome. Madam Chair, those are my comments, and probably, and the other final one is that there may be a need for more time because we just had a couple of days, and I was in LA and I was reading, trying to see what it was. But you guys, you did a wonderful job, but I think it's still subject to improvement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Actually, those were comments and not questions, so it's, I can say that there's a couple issues there that you brought up. And one is the cultural makeup of our community. The cultural plan very specifically outlines that information. And it is our intent that as people receive applications, that they also receive copies of the cultural plan. So they will get that information together. And it won't. Your question about what is the arts? And that's like, first of all, this is arts and culture. And when we discuss culture, that becomes an even bigger issue. But arts specifically are the disciplines. We know the disciplines as visual, literary, performing. Those are the arts. So that is easy for us to share, and it is actually outlined in the cultural plan. When we talk about culture, culture is values, attitudes, belief systems, and social practices of any given group. That opens the door for things beyond the arts. So for us to be as specific as you suggest could be far more limiting. Now, we did indicate the arts because this has been identified as an arts access fund. But we understand that it will be greater than that. And because of that, our careful consideration of how the funds might be distributed is such that we don't want to overpromise until we know what the universe is. Who are all of the potential applicants? We don't know those yet.
Thank you.
Sorry, just some clarification to one of Commissioner Barraza's points. Commissioner Barraza had brought up the point about how do we invite new artists who have not previously, I guess, that, I mean, one of my concerns is, not even concern, just questions, is so if we aren't funding individuals, how do individuals who have been performing art and cultural stuff in Fresno, practices, yes, how do they also kind of get some of the money that's available?
Yeah. That's going to be tough. And I say that not lightly. Our job is going to be to do tremendous outreach because there are a lot of folks out there that don't know that they are artists. They don't see themselves as cultural practitioners because what they do is a part of their daily life. It's a part of their cultural being. And so we will have to do a tremendous amount of outreach and tap into all the various resources that exist in our community to be able to bring those people out. But that also means that we will be growing our arts community.
So that was wonderful, but I'm also asking, so in terms of the ineligible organizations, individuals are listed under ineligible, right? So would we be helping them develop and start their own sort of whatever, C3s or stuff like that? Is that?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple ways, and that's why, and Commissioner Barraza, you mentioned the fiscal receiver opportunity. And it's there specifically to support organizations or collectives that perhaps have been practicing, but they don't have a 501c3, but they can still apply with a fiscal agent. And that's how they get in. But it also requires that we help them identify qualified fiscal agents.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple questions. Well, I comment first. I do like that it seems really accessible to everybody. You guys did a good job trying to lay that out. And I like what the commissioner said about maybe having some example projects for folks, just ones that you might be looking for. So it gives some people some ideas of how wide-ranging you're going to be accepting applications. The questions I guess I had was, why the $250,000 cap? Why not higher? You know, there's some organizations that have some bold, ambitious dreams. Why not let them kind of put that out there? Yeah. I guess I was asking why that. And then a couple other questions are, is there a performance period where the project has to be completed by? And then is there any, and maybe you guys didn't get this far yet, but you know, compliance as to project completion? Imagine that'll be next steps down the road, but just thought I'd mention it.
No, you're exactly right. That is what we will have compliance requirements. And also there is, and refresh me, the first part of your question was about
The 250,000.
the 250,000. The reason we put a cap, we actually played, and Commissioner Ward was involved in that process with different numbers. And we looked at ProPublica, which is a listing of all of the nonprofits that identify as arts and cultural organizations. And we looked at budget sizes. And we realized that if we had no cap, we could very quickly give the money out to all of the large budget organizations who might qualify and have nothing left for anyone else. So we looked at what might be a reasonable cap that would still allow those organizations who have for years gone without any support still have a substantial amount of money that they could fund positions, they could fund other major operating costs, and still grow as organizations. This is a sum of money that is currently not available from any other funder that people can access locally. And I want to ask Commissioner Ward if she wants to help expand on that.
Yeah, that ties into my comments, the question. So for my comments, which I think kind of will help the commission understand a little bit around the process, we were getting a lot of feedback around the funding formula and how does it tie in to the arts and cultural organizations that are in the city of Fresno. And because we were getting so many questions, I took the publicly available data for the 501c3 nonprofits that are based in Fresno that identify with their taxonomy code with the IRS as arts and culture. And then I looked up all of their most recently reportable tax data, okay, to try to get a sense of these 150 or 200 organizations, which ones were really active, which ones were current with the Attorney General, identifying who'd been dissolved, who was revoked by the IRS, and it really narrowed the pool, kind of who we thought might be applying in year one. Because the eligibility requirements are that you be in good standing, well, at least on the operating support side, might help identify who could be applying in that category because the project side is so vastly open. And what I found was there were approximately 50 to 70 organizations, mostly concentrated in the very small, the less than $50,000 organizations make up the greatest number of the 501c3s that are identifying as arts and culture and active in good standing in the city of Fresno. And then it really is a small pool as you get out of that. And then there were what I refer to as kind of the big seven. And the big seven were the ones that were in that 800 or 1,000 or above, category. And so this is kind of getting towards my question is, so in my mind, year one looks and feels very different than what year two is going to look and feel like. And that's for several reasons. One is that there is more money because it accumulated for more than a 12-month period to be available for year one, possibly. Year one is full of question marks because we don't know who's going to apply. It's a new process. It's full of unknowns. And in year one, I feel like there's greater need because a lot of the organizations are still feeling the impacts of COVID, And so one of the things that I think there's still confusion around, the committee, I think, talked about it so much that we felt like it was kind of clear that people could apply for both, that big organizations could apply for both. And then I've gotten a lot of questions like, that's not right. People should only apply for one or the other. And I think in year two and in future years where there's less money and likely more organizations, because I think we're going to be seeing more people incorporating and more people kind of making themselves eligible for this funding, we will probably need to change the guidelines to make a different track where people could go down one track or go down the other track, but if you can't go down both because there's not enough money. We're anticipating this year 9.5 million, and in future years probably 5 million-ish, maybe, who knows? And so my question was kind of, can you talk a little bit about how maybe we can engage in a different process for year 2? Because a lot of the feedback that I've also been receiving is we were working under this really expedited timeline, and we're trying to balance all of these tensions, and we're trying to meet a lot of different needs from a lot of different people, and we didn't get a really good opportunity to hear the community's needs, and I think we'd benefit from that. I think we'd benefit from time. I think we'd benefit from the greater understanding of what the community wants and what the community needs, and an understanding it's going to be an evolving landscape, arts and cultural organizations here just impacted by this funding. So can you talk a little bit about how we might have a different process, since the administrative service agreement does speak to the guidelines being revised and presented to City Council once a year? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. As I said, this is our first shot. Because we have so many unknown variables, we've tried to make it as accessible as possible, and also make it a process that everyone could apply to equally, and everyone grows. Everyone grows. But it's the first year. And as Laura stated, we are required by our agreement with the city to return to the City Council. It's my desire to return to this commission and the City Council annually with a guideline review. So if we didn't get it right this year, we will change it up next year and make whatever modifications are necessary, because we know that we don't know a lot yet. And this first year is going to inform us of what things we need to change next year. Other questions?
Yes, please. Thank you for the presentation. I think this is a nice discussion. Good starting point. I looked through the narrative questions, and there's a little bit of concern whether they should be the same set of questions for both categories, for general operating and project specifics grants. It could be confusing for applicants because maybe if we're not asking specific questions pertaining to that category, we might not have enough information to make an informed decision about the grant awards. It may be different information from an organization requiring general operational support. For example, and we did kind of touch on this, it might be a little bit different the second year and onward than the first year, but would the applicants be thinking that they may be receiving an award this year and perhaps a general operating for the next year, sort of expectation of what that might be? And let me finish here first. It might be that for project specific, there's more, and I've focused on my grant writing with project specific, with certain outcomes, et cetera. Certainly the 500 word limit might be really restrictive, and that could even be in both categories. I know it's supposed to be simple, but it just may not be enough information. So it's less about asking the question beyond, could there be consideration for the development of different narrative questions for both of those categories? And is there potential to expand that number of words to include while not giving them, an unlimited number of words?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for that. It's always challenging when you put a word limit, because if you make it too big as an applicant, you think, oh gosh, I'm not going to get the grant unless I use all 750 words. And if you put too few words, it's like they only gave me 100 words. I can't possibly respond to this question in that many words. So coming up with enough words to answer the questions was a consideration in this process. And as we considered not only the applicant and their experience, but the reviewer and what that experience is like. Because as a reviewer, you also then have to read all of those very long applications, or you think there weren't enough words here. I didn't get a sense of what they'd done. So that was the other thinking that went into this process. But I appreciate your comment, and it's very easy to just add a few more 100 words to these to make them perhaps more robust in their response.
And that the line of questioning for each of those categories, making sure that we understand what, what's the process to get there, the questions of, where, when, who, how, understanding what should be evaluated towards, the end of that period of time they have to perform that. So it's not just generalized, because it looks like within the questioning, we'll know a lot about the organization, which is really great, but a lot of times, at least project specific, will be, tell us a bit about your organization, some successes that you've had, and then tell us what you're going to do with our funding.
Sure.
Sure.
And that's why the first question really talks about their project. And I think that that we can expand that to when we work on project specific, we can tweak that language to be specific to projects.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Sure. Other questions? or
Madam
thoughts?
Chair, the heading of general operating support, it comes across like you're just giving money for them to continue to operate. However, if you were to add capacity building with a purpose, whatever that outcome is that you want, then it makes it more related to a specific purpose. So I just would point that out, that everybody would love to get money if you don't impose any obligations that are connected to art. And that's important for a lot of nonprofit organizations that currently are not involved with art, but we want to encourage the participation of more community organizations to the arts and cultural area. So this is the first category, is more like an incentive for groups to want to participate and be part of this process.
Yeah. You're right, and thank you. Operational support is identified because it's specifically identified in the initiative, and that's why it's listed that way. But to add operational support and capacity building is not too hard. But you should understand that operational support really does mean we're giving you money so you can continue to operate your organization. You can support your staffing, you can support your overhead costs, you can support all those things that most other funders will not support. And that's why it's pointed out in the initiative. It's not as boldly pointed out in the cultural plan, but it is part of the initiative, and that's why it's identified this way.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for your hard work. It's been a pleasure working with you on Measure P and just seeing you be very active in this cultural arts plan, the component of Measure P. This is the first year. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to get it right. We all made mistakes trying to implement the first year of Measure P, everyone sitting here. It's a learning experience, but you learn and you grow. So I just want to thank you, and I have no questions for you.
John? Okay, thank you very much.
I will now open public comment, and the first card that I have on my desk is Hugo Morales. Please come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes.
Hugo Morales, the founder and director of
You have to use the microphone. Thank you.
Hugo Morales, founder and director of Radio Bilingüe. I have my comments. I would like to put them on the record, so I want to submit them, and if you could share them with the members, that would be awesome. And speaking on behalf of Radio Bilingüe, I can tell you that I've been working with Amy Kitchener from the Alliance for California Traditional Arts, and that's our comments. And they're extensive. It's not one or two. And 3 minutes is just not enough to go through them, and please feel free to read them. And I think that I'm one of those voices in organizations that would like to see a comment period be open for the consideration of any changes. It is very important that these guidelines be, in a general sense, right. I mean, the idea that somehow you will learn from mistakes, that's always true. But it'd be good if you could get it more right than wrong. And from my vantage point and some of the other people in the community, this is the way that it would work. It would be more of maintaining the status quo instead of what the purpose, as those of us believe in Measure P, is to bring about some equity in the arts area. So I propose that the guidelines, that the PRAC delay approval of the draft of the guidelines for 2 weeks for public comment period and revisions by the Arts Culture Subcommittee with a 7-day public review period before the PRAC consideration of the revised guidelines. That is my proposal, and you have the comments before you. And I just want to say that just one of the things, for example, that needs to be further thought is, for example, we're talking about projects, and there's a suggestion that the line of projects will be dictated by the Arts Council, perhaps this commission, instead of having the community propose their own creative ideas on what they believe should be a project. That's just one of multitude of suggestions that should be considered. And I also want to thank the commission and the committee and the Arts Council for putting so much work into this. And for that, I thank them. But I respectfully ask for further consideration of input from the community that is just not available. I mean, a one working day opportunity to give comments, constructive comments. It's just, anyway, what you see is what we were able to do in a few hours. Imagine, anyway, there's a lot more to make comments on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Amy Kitchen, sir. I'm butchering up names today, sorry.
It's just like the kitchen.
Kitchen.
Amy Kitchener. Good evening, everyone, and thank you. And I'd really like to thank the commission, the committee, and the Fresno Arts Council for all of the work that's gone in here so far. And just to identify myself, I'm the executive director of Alliance for California Traditional Arts. I'm also an emeritus board member and member of the National Grant Makers in the Arts, and I'm also a grant maker. So someone who's really familiar with grants processes and grants making. I want to also just reiterate that one business day is not enough time It was so exciting to go to those public meetings that the Arts Council held with 90 other people. But unfortunately, there's only 4 people here in this room that I can see that went to those meetings. And to have people be notified that the guidelines are here and what do you think could be a really important part of the public engagement process. These draft guidelines are in need of significant revision, in my opinion, to be in alignment with the purpose of Measure P, which is to expand access to arts and culture programming, prioritizing diverse public or youth engagement and equity. In my opinion, these guidelines really do reinforce the status quo and will work to keep small organizations small and large organizations large, with limited potential to support the need in wide-ranging arts programming, reflecting our diverse community in which 90% of our youth are BIPOC, people of color. So there's a lot of comments and specific recommendations that Ugo shared. Those are just a few. We didn't have enough time to actually do it to the extent that we would make for the recommendations. But we do urge you to delay the vote on this and to allow for a 2-week public comment period, and also ample time for people to see a revised version before it comes back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Michelle Racy.
Good evening, everybody. I can't gesture holding this thing, so it's going to be a little awkward for me because I do a lot of gesturing. I'm Michelle Ellis-Pracy, and I'm the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Fresno Art Museum. And you've seen me here over the months many, many times. And I do want to thank the Commission, the Arts Subcommittee, and city officials who are here tonight, and especially Lilia and the Fresno Arts Council and my colleagues for all working so hard to getting us to this point tonight. I want to thank Laura Ward for foreshadowing that we are going to be asking tonight to have a 2-week hiatus. When I came to Fresno 10 years ago, I came for the job. I'd never lived here before, and I came because the Fresno Art Museum in my field had a great reputation. It had a great legacy, and I was so determined that I would be part of that future. And here I am starting my 10th year in a few months. And I realized when I first came here after about a year that what I didn't see in Fresno was a fabric of cultural art in Fresno. I felt I was on an island. I felt Arte Americas was on an island. I felt the Mural District was on an island. I felt the individual artists were on their own island, and that we needed to have a fabric. And one of the beauties of Measure P is that it's going to create that fabric. We're going to find out in this application process who's out there, who needs money, what do they need it for, and for us to have the stability knowing that we have this money to apply for is so important. Large museums, large nonprofits have big budgets, but we're not wealthy. We look for money every single day to support our square footage, our programs, our staff, and our future. And I think that needs to be appreciated, that just because we have a big budget doesn't mean we have a lot of money. And it's hard. So we hope you'll give us the 2 weeks. Thank you very much. We'd love to comment formally on the grant guidelines, which are great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Stephen Wilson. Is it Stephen or Stephen? Stephen. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Wilson, President and CEO of the Fresno Philharmonic. And first of all, I would really like to give a huge thank you to Commissioners Ward, Miller, and the late Dr. Oputa for the incredible amount of time and effort that they have put into these guidelines. I know they have been thoughtful, that they are trying to listen to a lot of different voices, and that they very much want to get this right. And so I really commend them for the work that they have been doing. I would, however, second the call to take a pause, a brief pause of 14 days for additional comment. As been mentioned, the guidelines dropped very late, and there are some, a variety of very narrow technical things which I think, need to be addressed. I think one of the big issues, which has been discussed by a number of people here tonight, is the structure between the general operating and the project support grants. I think that does need to be revisited. I personally would be in favor of a one-stop shopping model, but the guidelines as they are currently written, including the percentages and the caps, were made on the assumption that organizations would be able to apply for both. So those are two interrelated issues, and if there is a change in that structure, that needs to be looked at very carefully, because they are looked at, and there were a lot, and again, all of the assumptions about the amount of grant funds that will be available, the applicant pool, all that was looked at holistically. So any change in that regard needs careful consideration and would be difficult to do in open session tonight, I believe. So that's the main thing. Again, appreciate the work that all of you are doing, but think that it would be helpful, as Ugo said, that trying to get it more right the first time would be worth taking a little bit of extra time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online who would like to make a comment?
Not at this time.
Thank you. All right, well, we did that already. Is there a motion to recommend the proposed expanded access to arts and culture grant guidelines to the City Council for their consideration and adoption?
Madam Chair, I wanted to make a motion that we continue this matter to our next meeting of October 16, to give more time to the public and even to this commission to review the guidelines.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. So we're gonna put this back on the agenda for our next Parks meeting.
Thank you.
Everyone catch that? All righty. So we're gonna go to our last item tonight, ID number 23-1348. Receive public input on allocations related to Measure P. Updates to the Park Master Plan and Cultural Arts Plan and annual Parks Department budget and capital improvement plans. Would any member of the public like to provide a comment regarding this item? You will have up to 3 minutes for comment. None in the chambers, any online?
Yes, I have Lisa Flores.
Hi, Lisa, you will have 3 minutes.
Just really quickly, I just want to reiterate my ongoing position about anything going into roading is that there needs to be massive amounts of community input and community engagement. The city has a history, and I hope that Measure P doesn't go along the same lines of, oh, we posted it on the internet, we've reached out to social media, we put it in the newspaper, but they actively don't go out to known activists and community groups that actually use the park. And that I hope that the Parks Department does start to do more in depth of gathering information of actual park users. Like, for example, I've been in Roding Park doing play groups for now over 10 years, yet and never notified of any major changes to the park. Wasn't notified of the construction of the dog park, that sort of thing. So I would encourage a better and more comprehensive outreach and community engagement process. Thank you.
Anyone else online?
No.
All right, I will now close public comment. Does any member of the commission have questions or comments regarding this item? All right. Whew, can't believe I'm saying this, but this meeting is adjourned in the memory of Commissioner Dr. Francine Apuda, and it is 7:48. Thank you all for attending and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good job.